Okay, good afternoon. This is the agenda for the special meeting of the Vacaville City Council on May 6, 2020. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20 and guidance from the California Department of Public Health on gatherings, which suspends certain requirements to the Ralph M. Brown Act. The council chamber will not be open for this meeting. Remote public participation is allowed in the following ways: viewing remotely. Council meetings can be seen on demand at the City of Vacaville website at www.cityofvacaville.com or live on our cable channel 26. To view it from the website, click the link to view the meeting from the agenda's minutes. Participating from the meeting remotely, comments on the agenda items can be emailed to the city clerk up to 4:30 p.m. prior to this meeting, and it's past that. So please include the item. All comments will be provided to the City Council for consideration before the City Council action. To access this meeting remotely, you must join from a PC, Mac, and then you can see that there is directions there on the agenda. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Harris?
Here.
Councilmember Mashburn?
Here.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Beatty?
Here.
Mayor Roulette?
I'm here. If you can, please stand with me for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we approve the agenda, I would like to add something. I would like to add an urgency action item to the agenda 4A, requesting the City Council to authorize me to send a letter to the county on behalf of the City Council for a proposed recovery plan. This is to add an urgency item. I need a 4/5 vote, finding that, one, the item came to the city's attention after the agenda was posted last night, and two, that there is a need for immediate action. It came to my attention today after the agenda was posted that the county is attempting to revise and issue a new order addressing reopening as early as tomorrow. Therefore, if the City Council wants to have input, a letter needs to be prepared and sent out as soon as possible prior to our meeting next Tuesday. So if I'll actually move that, if I can get a second to put it on the agenda under 4A, can I get a second on that?
Second. This is Mitch. I second.
Okay, I have a motion from myself. Second.
Can I get clarification? I'm sorry. Would that be all right?
Yes. What's the clarification you would like?
Well, I'm wondering actually if it's a necessity, given that there's ongoing meetings with the county, both by elected officials on a weekly basis and by staff. So I'm wondering whether it's actually necessary.
I actually asked for this to be added because I do think it's absolutely necessary that the City of Vacaville, if we're together as a group and we want to vote on this, and all I'm asking to do is put it on the agenda, then we can discuss it. And if we don't want it, then we don't have to do it. But I'm asking for us to put it on there to have the discussion because when I sent the letter last time as the mayor, there were certain people that were upset because we didn't do it as a group. And then now they're going to be voting on something. And I think it would be good that the city actually stands up for the City of Vacaville and says, hey, we feel strongly about this. Let's move this forward and hopefully give some guidance to the county before they issue any order and represent our community as a whole. And if we do this and just put it on the agenda, then we can discuss what that letter will look like and how we move that forward. So I'm asking for this just to be put on the agenda, and then we can have a full discussion about if we send it, if we don't send it, what we're going to say, you know, from that.
Right. No, and that's fine. I think, I can support that. I'm just thinking it's probably going to be a moot point by Tuesday night, but I'm all in favor of supporting it.
It's actually, let me just address what Harris said. This would actually, you would give me parameters to send a letter on behalf of the city council, and I would send it out tomorrow morning before they start to discuss what they're going to open. It might be late, but I think we're doing a service to this community, saying as a council as a whole, we feel like we would like to see this in the city of Vacaville and the county, and it gives us a voice. Without that letter, we don't have a voice. They're doing what they think is best for us.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were bringing it to the agendizing it for next Tuesday, which is what I think you stated. So,
and if that's what you heard, I apologize. I was reading it off my script.
Okay, so I think it should come from the council.
Yes, that's what I want to do. I want to put it on the agenda so the council has buy-in and gives direction on how you want me to script that letter. And then in the letter, it will say on behalf of the city council. It won't be coming from the office of the mayor. It will be coming as a group decision.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Sullivan?
So two quick comments. My first comment is thank you for being responsive to the feedback and including us in the conversation. I really appreciate that. The second comment is, do we even need to amend the motion? Because we're already discussing the update. Couldn't that be part of our outcome for business item A? Couldn't we just say that? Do we need to change?
No, it cannot, because we can't arbitrarily put things on the agenda and vote on them without doing what I'm asking to do. And I made sure that we were doing it right, so we didn't violate.
Cool. No, if we're good, I'm supportive.
Okay, so again, I made the motion. Mashburn seconded it. We'll take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Mashburn?
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beatty?
Aye.
Mayor Rolette?
Aye. Thank you very much. Now we will make a motion to approve the agenda with the add of 4A.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Harris?
Aye.
Mashburn?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Beatty?
Aye.
Mayor Rolette?
Aye. Now we will move to item 4A. Mr. City Manager, do you want me to call Chief Conception up, or do you want to start it?
I'll go ahead and start it off, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. So last week at last week's regularly scheduled City Council meeting, there was quite a bit of questions about the status of the current shelter-at-home order that we had just received a few days before then. I noticed that the order had been extended from April 30th to May 17th. And as you stated earlier, because there was no really game plan as to how we would address reopening, there was a lot of questions. But since that time, and so our objective tonight was to answer those questions that came up at last week's meeting. But as you mentioned, since that time, there's been a lot of activity from both the state level and the county level that has really kind of turned things around, we believe. And so tonight, our effort will focus on what has occurred since last Tuesday and give you an update as to where we believe the state and county are with the reopening plans, and then give you an idea of where we're recommending that we continue to proceed. So with that, I will now turn it over to our Fire Chief, Chris Concepcion.
Thank you, City Manager Bush, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Chris Concepcion, Fire Chief. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
You sound great, Chief. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thanks. Crystal, next slide, please. So as Aaron had said, there have been quite a few developments since we last talked on last Tuesday, and there was quite a few questions from the council regarding what's going on with the COVID pandemic. So I just want to talk about those latest developments and where we are. as far as our plans. And I know that the priority for the council is getting Vacaville reopened. So on May 1st, the county public health officer amended their order to allow outside recreational activities. And then on May 4th, which was just this past Monday, Governor Newsom revised the stay-at-home order, the state stay-at-home order, and it was with that revision of the state stay-at-home order that allowed a lot of the other movement that's going on or has been going on in the last couple of days. And then yesterday, May 5th, Dr. Matias, the public health officer, presented to the Board of Supervisors, and he gave all of the numbers as far as the COVID cases in Solano County. And while the numbers went up significantly, those numbers are due specific. The increase was due specifically to an outbreak in another city in the county. But with that set aside, with that outbreak set aside, the county cases really have been flat. And in the opinion of the expert opinion of the public health officer, he felt that we can go ahead, or they can go ahead with a phased reopening plan as far as the county is concerned. Next slide, please. I'm going to start with the state's four-stage, or the governor's four-stage plan. I talked about this last week, but I just want to reiterate how this plan is staged. We're at stage one right now, which is safety and preparedness, and that's to make sure that we build out the testing, the ability to do RNA testing as well as antibody testing, contact tracing, make sure that we have the sufficient amount of PPE, as well as make sure that the state has a sufficient amount of hospital surgeons in the case that it's needed. And then stage two is where it looks like we'll be able to move into as soon as this Friday, and that is reopening of the lower risk workplaces. And according to the state, the lower risk workplaces are retail establishments. Now, according to the state, that's open for curbside pickup, and then manufacturing offices, like insurance offices and things and places like that, where physical distancing can be easily done in those places. And then also opening more public spaces, like for the local agencies and counties where their parks have been closed, allowing those spaces to open back up. Stage three, which goes into the higher risk workplaces, and that's the personal care industry. And we've been hearing a lot about that in the last week or so, as far as our city, and that includes barbers, hair salons, nail salons, and the like. And that's where the service cannot be provided to the customers without prolonged contact with the customers. It also includes entertainment venues like movie theaters and sports without live audiences. And then the stage four, which is the final stage, is that's when the end of the stay-at-home order happens, and that's when the highest risk workplaces will be able to reopen, as well as live audience sports. And then next slide, please. So in the governor's revised order on Monday, they talked about, or in his plan, talked about the key indicators that allow the state to move from stage one, where we are right now, to stage two. And some of those key indicators that the governor was looking for was that there was a stabilization in hospitalization and in ICU trends, which we think is happening in the state of California right now. Making sure that there's hospital surge capacity to meet the demand, sufficient PPE supply to meet the demand, sufficient testing capacity to meet the demand, and then also make sure that we've got contact tracing capacity statewide, and the state is stepping that up to about 10,000 contact tracers the last that I read. One of the important aspects of that plan, that California plan, is the governor did say that the transition from stage 1 to stage 2 will occur through statewide modification to the stay-at-home order. And that is anticipated to happen. The guidance has not officially come out from the state yet, but is anticipated to come out in the next day or so. Another thing that he did say in his order is that that the counties may choose to. There's opportunity for what he's calling regional variations, and what that means is that the counties may choose to relax to the stricter local orders at their own pace, and so they can actually be less restrictive than the state order. But there's a couple of caveats with that. And that is that the public health officer has to certify, they have to develop a plan. The public health officer has to certify that plan, and the board of supervisors have to concur. Next slide, please. So that's exactly what, given that capability to establish a plan, a regional plan, if you will, Dr. Matias at the county level gave a presentation of his 3-phase plan to the board of presented his plan to the board of supervisors yesterday. And he is looking at or categorizes low risk, medium risk, and high risk establishments. So as far as low risk establishments, that's retail establishments, and as far as the county is concerned, he's actually including in-store service as far as the retail establishments are concerned. So rather than just curbside, the county plan allows for in-store service for the customers to go into the store. Also includes offices like insurance and realtor offices and the like. And these are businesses where physical distancing is easily done. They've got to have a plan in place. The phase plan says the businesses, before they can open, have to have a plan in place. We're anticipating to see a draft of the a draft plan that the business can easily put together, and it has to be posted. And as far as the county is concerned, they're saying that they are anticipating that the county order is going to be amended by tomorrow. The actual final official copy of the phased plan will come out tomorrow, and then with businesses, those low risk businesses being able to open as soon as potentially on Friday. Now, they can open on Friday, but remember that, like I mentioned before, this has some pretty strict requirements as far as training for the employees, as far as physical distancing and putting the physical barriers in place. So it may take some time for the businesses to actually get to actually open up, but they can open up as soon as Friday. And then the next phase of Dr. Matias for the county plan is medium risk businesses. And this is the personal service industry, barbers, salons, nail salons, chiropractors, etc. And these are the services where these are the businesses where services can't be provided without close contact with the client or prolonged contact with the client. Now, the county is actually saying that that plan and that guidance could come out from the county as soon as, from what I understand, it's going to be considered by the board. It's going to be presented to the board of supervisors at their meeting on Tuesday, and that guidance could come out sometime after that, or the final plan of that can come out soon after that. And those medium risk businesses could potentially in the county open up as soon as next Friday, which would be May 15th. And then the last phase of the county plan is the higher risk businesses, and those are large events. Dr. Matthias said before that happens, he needs to see a significant diminished number of cases in the community. We are not anywhere close to that yet. And he did not provide any kind of timeline as to when we would move into that phase of the plan. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the amended order from the county should be amended and signed by tomorrow, May 7th. Low-risk businesses should be allowed to open as soon as Friday, May 8th. The medium-risk businesses, the personal service industry, as I said, there is no specific date, but it could be as soon as May 15th, the week after. The public health officer will provide guidance. There are going to be specific things that the businesses have to do in order to open up for business, and they have to follow that plan. They have to post that plan. Next slide, please. So as far as the city is concerned, we are going to, because these plans are very detailed as far as the county is concerned, and they've got, the public health officer is basing all of his decisions on science and exactly what is going on with COVID here locally in Solano County. And so we are going to follow that plan. And so our low-risk businesses are anticipated to be able to open up on May 8th as soon as we get that that order amended by the county. So our low-risk businesses should be able to open up on May 8th, and we're hoping that according to Dr. Matthias' schedule, that we will be able to open up our medium-risk businesses will be able to open up by May 15th. So we'll have to, and then the county is actually, because of the requirements that they're putting on these businesses in order to be able to open, they have established a county warm line where our businesses can call to determine if they're a low, that'll help them decide or determine whether they're a low risk business, medium risk business, as far as the interpretation of the order. And that you see that phone number there. There's also an email, and I can provide that for you later. And we'll post once we have the orders. We'll post the phone number as well as the emails to contact the county. And then the last thing that we need to do as far as the city is concerned is we need to prepare for a phased reopening of City Hall. Today at our daily briefing, we discussed we had a small committee put together a plan as far as when we are planning to open City Hall back for walk-in business. Right now, we're shooting for May 18th. We're going to need to work out the details and some of the issues that are still ahead of us, like access control. How are we going to ensure that physical distancing is taking place, and then also physical barriers like sneeze guards and such to prevent transmission of the disease from either customers to our employees or vice versa. And so we're anticipating that as far as the opening of City Hall, we could do that as soon as May 18th. And that concludes, next slide, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Harris.
Hi. So Chief Concepcion, first I want to say thank you very much for giving us these regular updates. It's really important. I have a few comments that I wanted to make and also a request. One comment is that some of our businesses may not have understood the legal liabilities associated with opening business before our county health officials provided orders. So after my comments, if you could maybe address that, or maybe the city attorney. Secondly, there, rightfully so, there is still some fear and division within our city about reopening, even with guidelines in place, due to concern for the medically vulnerable and elderly. And I think we need to keep that in mind as the loosening of the stay-at-home orders roll out. I think that's important. People have varying views on this issue of reopening. And one thing that I wanted to, mention for our seniors is that I know the city has its senior helpline. However, if seniors are looking for additional support and resources, the county has a hotline number that they can call, and I want to provide that. It's 707-784-1607. And just so people are aware, the county has set up an older adult resource center, and they will be instituting well checks for seniors that are 60 years and older. And they're going to use the voter rolls and volunteers, including 50 nurses who have been trained and will be contacting seniors to offer assistance. My next comment, I've been on many of the weekly calls with county public health officials over the last couple of months. And while there appears to be a significant change coming as soon as next week to reopen a great deal of our commerce with specific health guidelines in place, our businesses have been suffering for 2 months. And many of these businesses will take a significant time to recover. The thing that hasn't been discussed in depth at our council meetings is economic recovery for our small business sector in Vacaville. What I'd like to do is see if I can get a second and the approval of this board to agendize a discussion for next week how the city might help in economic recovery.
Diana?
Yes.
We can't do that. Legally, we can't put something on the agenda and vote for it. That's why we had to do that whole thing about adding that. I'm sure every council member...
We can agendize it, can't we?
You can ask to agendize. Absolutely, you can ask to agendize it for the next one, but we're not going to vote on it tonight. Thank you.
I'm not sure where we're at, but that was one of my questions and comments as well. So I would love to agendize a discussion about business recovery at the next meeting. I know we can't talk about it tonight, but I think that's very important. There's a lot of cities that are out doing this now to support local small businesses. So I would second a motion to place on next meeting's agenda a discussion or a presentation from staff about economic recovery.
Again, we can't motion or second or vote, but I believe the city manager heard our request to put it on the next agenda. So we'll leave it at that for tonight.
Mr. Mayor, you can actually take a vote directing the city to put something on the agenda for next week.
You want us to motion and vote to put something on the agenda on this item right now?
To put something on next week's agenda, to direct staff to put something on next week's agenda.
On this agenda, we want to do that right now.
Yes, we'd like to.
Yeah,
I'm asking our city attorney.
You are allowed to do that.
Okay. Before we make the motion and the second, is there any other council members that want to speak on this item from Chief Conception?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
So my first question, Chief, is where does dental and non-emergency medical fall into all of this? What phase would they be considered in?
As far as dental is concerned, yeah. So that if it's not emergency, I would imagine it falls under the prolonged, and it'd be the higher risk. I'd have to confirm that for you.
Okay.
But I believe it falls under the medium risk.
And then the other question, I know that this is maybe this is a kind of a different topic though. So the hospitals are only doing emergency kind of necessity kind of procedures and there's actually quite a few folks that are actually out of work right now because they're not doing, routine LASIK eye surgeries and this, that, and the other. Are they working on a tangential path with the state, or are they under the control of the county, or who controls whether or not a hospital system or a local doctor is doing emergency versus non-emergency work?
So as far as I'm sorry, going back to your first question, as far as the dental, I confirm that is medium risk.
Thank you.
That would have to wait for medium risk. As far as the question to that other answer, I'd have to find out for you as far as who's working with the non, I shouldn't say, not, probably like more of the elective.
Right, the elective kind of procedures and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll have to figure out, I'll have to get that answer for you.
Okay, so we have a lot of folks in that sector employed locally, and I'm not sure, I just don't want them to get forgotten about.
Right.
My couple questions, Chief. First question is on slide 4 of 7. You mentioned quite a few different monitoring kind of avenues and things that we'd have to check for local businesses. I'm sure the other council members are probably getting the same emails and calls and questions. Everyone wants to know who's monitoring the bad actors or who's not. Who is responsible then if we roll these out to make sure that these businesses are doing what they're supposed to do? And I know probably the most common email I get is, can you please go check on, so-and-so's house party or this? Who are the compliance monitors per se?
Well, I mean that it falls. So we're complaint based here as far as the city is concerned, and so what we have been doing is we've been following a trying to get voluntary compliance through education, and it's our code compliance officers in the fire department that actually, once we get a complaint, will go out and inspect a business to see if they are supposed to be open or not.
So if the average citizen has an issue today or has an issue next week, if the things lighten up a little bit, they would call code compliance?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And then my last couple questions are on slide 6 of 7.
Okay.
So I totally share Councilwoman Harris's comment about the tiered liability piece. We talked about that a little bit earlier today. I think that would be very helpful for the public to understand why generally the county follows the state and the city follows the county. So that would be great if Melinda or you can address that. But my last question is, and the return to work piece. So I work in a government office myself, and we're kind of grappling with the exact same issue. So my comment really is, living kind of this world on my own, I'm not super interested in bringing my staff back to work immediately. We've found that with technology and with telecommuting, we are just as productive, if not more productive. Staff are happier and safer at home. So I guess the message I'd like to put out there is, I think I'd like to think of, is there a better way to do business going forward? And in some cases, it may make sense that we actually look at telecommuting or look at distance workplaces or look at kind of how the workplace has changed over the last 2 months. And if we don't need to bring folks back in, I would like to advocate that we let them telecommute, because I think in some cases they can be as productive, if not more productive, at home. And so the workplace is sort of evolving pretty quickly. So it's just something to factor in. I love the sneeze guard stuff and all those other, that's exactly the same discussions we're having here, is how do we engage the public on this, that, and the other. So that's fantastic. And then the last piece that I wanted to add really quick, and I don't know if this should go now or later when we talk about the letter that we're going to discuss, but 14% of Vacaville's population are senior citizens. And a senior citizen who is 60 years old has a 12% higher rate of being hospitalized, or 12 times higher rate of being hospitalized than someone who is 20 to 29. And so I just don't want to forget about Leisure Town. I don't want to forget about Diamond Grove. I don't want to forget about all of our seniors in our SNFs and be hasty. I really think that those 14% matter, and that 12 to 18% risk, or 18 times risk for 80-year-olds, is something we all need to factor in. And the death rate is almost 8 times as high. So I just don't want that to get lost in the shuffle. Vacaville has a big, amazing community that's very supportive of our seniors. And I want to make sure that we point that out in any communications to the county, or that you and your staff are thinking about that, because an 18 times hospitalization rate would quickly overwhelm our hospitals. And so I just want to make sure we're thinking about Leisure Town when we make decisions going forward. That's all I got. Thanks.
So let me respond to those two statements. For the first one, as far as the reopening City Hall, we're talking about a phased reopening of City Hall, and realizing that this, we're not saying that on May 18th we're going to be open up and it's back to normal business. Absolutely not. This is going to be a phased reopening where we are going to allow. We're going to have access control, so it's going to be a little bit different than what it used to be as far as people wandering around City Hall. But we're going to reopen for walk-in business for our customers, so they don't have to. Right now, we've got all the doors locked, and no one can do business in person unless they do it by appointment. So we're planning on reopening City Hall to allow for walk-in business. But that doesn't mean that everyone is going to come into work, because we still need to ensure that our folks still adhere to the strict physical distancing guidelines. And so that may mean that to the extent possible, those people that can telecommute and have been telecommuting during this whole process will continue to do so, and then and also to make sure that we're even considering shifts, so like an A shift versus a B shift, so that not everyone is in the office at the same time. So I can assure you that we're working on a phased reopening. It's going to take a while for us to get back to what we were used to before this pandemic hit.
Great. Those are great ideas.
I would imagine it's going to be a new normal, and it's not going to be the old normal that we were used to. So there are going to be some changes.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief. That's what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah. And then as far as the vulnerable population or the high risk population, that is definitely part. It's included in the draft as far as the plan. That's included in his plan as far as guidance for the high risk population. And also the health director is closely monitoring hospital surge capacity. He's considering the demographics of all county communities in his decision. So that remains a top priority as far as his plan is concerned.
Thank you.
So did you
Are
want
there
me to?
any other council members? No, I don't want a motion yet, because we still have to open it up to the public, and I still want to make sure that every other council member has gotten to speak.
Mayor, if I may, I believe.
Go ahead, Chief. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe there was one unanswered question as far as Councilwoman Harris was asking as far as legal liabilities, and I'm going to have to defer that question to our city attorney.
Thank you.
Sure. I think there are a couple of issues. So first, to Councilmember Harris's question about legal liability. Of course, every business is going to be in a different situation, but as a general matter, violation of the county orders or the state orders is a misdemeanor. So that's punishable by a citation or by arrest. There are also concerns, obviously, over civil liability if they are acting outside of the orders, and also with some of the businesses that are governed by a professional body. There's some concern that their license could be revoked or suspended depending upon how that professional association handles it. So there are certainly things that businesses should consider. If they're going to open outside of if they're considering opening outside of the orders. With respect to, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'll wait.
Okay, I was going to move on to Council Member Sullivan's question.
Oh, so I just wanted to, my point was, a lot of the businesses did not understand or may not understand why Vacaville has waited to allow reopening. And the main consideration has been the legal liability that the city would fall under, and those businesses should we defy county, orders. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear to people so there was no, misunderstanding.
Correct. And there's also a financial concern on the city's part with respect to being able to recover their emergency costs that we've incurred if we act outside of the county or city's orders, counties or states' orders.
Right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the clarification.
You're welcome. So to Councilmember Sullivan's question about the hierarchy, so just at a very basic level, the county is going to control over the city's orders in this situation, at least as far as a public health concern is being addressed. And that's particularly apparent in this situation because this is a public health crisis. And actually back in 1953, the city consented to be subject to the county health department's program and also consented to the county health officer enforcing various public health orders, quarantine regulations, and other types of rules in the public health situation. So that's what we have here. So the county would prevail over the cities, and then the state would prevail over the counties, given that this is a statewide state of emergency. With the caveat to all of that the stricter regulations would apply. So if the county actually enacted stricter regulations than the state, then the county's regulations would, those stricter regulations would prevail.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and then, so for making a motion, which I thought was out of turn, and I apologize to Councilwoman Harris, we, in the past, Councilmember Sullivan is asked to put things on the agenda, and he's asked for clarification on how he puts things on the agenda. And we've always said you can't throw things onto an agenda during the meeting. It has to be agendized to talk about it. So being that we're going to step in a different direction, and I'm going to ask the city attorney this, is I think if we're going to start that now and we're just going to start agendizing items during the agenda, I think that we should wait till reports of the city council to have us move forward. So if Diana wants to make an agendized item, or Nolan or any other council member, we wait till the reports of the city council, then they ask for that, we get a second, 3 or more vote, and then I guess we put it on the next agenda.
So I'm,
I was asking the attorney.
I was just going to say, I do apologize. So yes, that's been the typical practice when you want to add something to the agenda, is to do it under council comments. I still think it's appropriate to have a motion and take an action on it, but I think past practice has been that it's done under council reports to city council.
And I usually ask for something that's not related to what we're talking about. So this, in my opinion, is directly related to the COVID update. So I see a nexus there. I don't know why we'd wait. Usually I'll ask about homelessness or something that we're not talking about. So, I mean, in my mind, this makes sense under this category, kind of the same logic with your letter earlier. I don't know why we would wait, but it makes sense to happen under this item for me.
Well, as past practice, we've told you no, that you can't put something on an agenda and ask for a motion and a second and a vote. And then tonight, Ms. Harris was trying to put something on there, and I was just doing as past practice saying, we can't do that, but I think we can, basically direct staff and then have it brought back at a later meeting. Like I said earlier, hold on. Like I said earlier, I'm sure we all want that. And now that our city attorney has said, yes, now we can do that, all I'm going to ask is Diana, hold that to reports of the city council. And then from now on, moving forward, if anybody wants anything on the agenda during reports of the city council, you can ask to agendize things. So if you can hold that motion, because we still have a kind of a second part of this this item, and I want to ask the city attorney, do we discuss that, or do I open up to public comment? How do you want to run that?
I suppose you could. Oh, sorry.
I'm asking the city attorney. I'm asking the city attorney.
I get that. I just want to still respond, but after she's done.
I will call on you.
Thank you.
So I think, to avoid confusion, maybe you can open it up for public comment on the fire chief's presentation, take public comment, and then come back and talk about the letter, and then you would have to open it up for public comment on the letter.
Councilwoman Harris?
Sure. I do not see the confusion in this. As Councilmember Sullivan had indicated, this makes sense to do it at this time, just like the letter to the county made sense at the time you brought it up. So I just don't understand, the need to put it under a specific, reports of the council when it is a logical nexus to what we were just discussing. But if that is your preference and, you feel real strongly about that, I'll be happy to bring it up at, the council comments.
I believe the city attorney asked us to bring it up under city council comments.
I don't think she said that.
No, she didn't. But neither here or there. I'll bring it up then.
Ms. Harris,
No big deal.
I'm going to ask you to wait until you're called upon. City attorney, can you clarify? I thought that you said it would probably be better to bring that to reports to the city council. Again, I'm just trying to make sure this is smooth and it's not coming out as smooth as I think we wanted it to.
Sure. No, I was just suggesting that was the past practice. So that was an opportunity to do it under reports from city council.
Thank you. So with that, does any other council member want to talk about what Chief Conception was talking about? And at this time, I'm going to open it up for public comment, and I'm going to let the public know that we don't have just a public comment on the agenda tonight. So if you have something that pertains to COVID and what the chief talked about tonight, this would be the opportunity you can take to do your comments. I'm going to limit to 3 minutes per person. Is there anybody on the line that would like to comment?
Mayor, I have Becky Craig on the line. I'm going to go ahead and open her mic.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. This is Becky Craig with the Vacaville Chamber of Commerce. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I had a few questions regarding the fire chief's presentation. In particular, do we know where restaurant service is going to fall in the low to medium range? And what, if any, definition has been identified for large crowds? Following those questions, I do ask that as we proceed with getting the guidelines, that if there's any supplies that are required for businesses to procure, such as sanitizers or masks or anything else unusual to their normal operations, that we all work together to identify how we procure those supplies and get them into their hands sooner than later, than depending on the each individual trying to acquire them themselves. If we can do that as a group, that would be wonderful, or at least provide direction. And then lastly, based on the comments from Councilwoman Harris regarding an economic recovery that will likely be agendized for next week, I do ask that the Chamber of Commerce and local businesses be part of that conversation at the table and from the outset. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more public comments?
Yes, Mayor Roulette. I have Leah Rivera. I'll go ahead and open her mic.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. I just want to say thank you. First of all, I'm overwhelmed with hearing all of these plans. It's awesome to hear. I do have 2 requests. I would like to request for at least my business to be deemed essential. I specialize in premium hair extension services and have several clients that have medical conditions such as PCOS, chemo, autoimmune disease that cause them to lose their hair. And There's serious liability and ramifications that can come with those not being maintained. So with us potentially reopening next week, that's maybe a moot point, but my other concerns are compliance. Is that going to be for all businesses or only the non-essential businesses that are set to reopen with this plan? I'm quite concerned every time I go out into the community and see the behavior and safety precautions that are being taken, or the lack of what's happening out there at, Lowe's, Home Depot, the post office, everywhere that we go, there's nothing is being followed. So I'm just wondering about the compliance. Is that going to be businesses across the board? And if you could reiterate who that person is, I heard that question asked, but I did not catch the answer to it.
Is that the end of your statement?
Yes.
Thank you. And
Mr.
before we get too far ahead, Mrs. Craig asked about restaurants. Could someone answer that? I apologize. And then can we answer the questions that she just had?
Yes.
Mr. City Manager? Or Chief Conception, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is Chris Concepcion. As far as Mrs. Craig's question, as far as in-restaurant dining, according to the anticipated county plan, it is considered a medium risk business. So it would not be until medium risk businesses were allowed to open. And there's going to be some strict guidelines as far as we would anticipate that is concerned, as far as allowing physical distancing. So it wouldn't be a return to a full capacity as far as in restaurant dining is concerned. Does that answer your question? And then I'll just go on to the next one as far as so the city itself, because we don't have public health officer, we have to comply by the county's orders, and we are not able to give any specific permission to any particular business as far as whether what category they fall in. And that interpretation is going to be up to the county. And that is a reason that we're going to be posting that phone number, that warm line that they have established, so that you can go ahead and call that line to determine what category business your business falls under. And then with the last question, as far as who is going to be doing compliance, complaints can be called into the city, and it will be code compliance that will be responsible for that.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment?
Okay, I believe Councilwoman Harris asked first, so go ahead, Councilwoman Harris.
Chief and Becky, just for some clarification, I was on a call with the county this afternoon between 3:30 and 4, and it appears as though, based on the thinking today, that restaurants will be opening. There will be orders to allow that opening for dine-in, but they are going to have that 6-foot separation between tables and some other guidelines for employees to have masks. So, it looks like the inclination is to begin allowing that with the next set of orders that come out next week. And that's just to help prepare people. But, there will be specific guidelines in place. So it's, and it's not a done deal yet, but it is being considered.
Was there another council member that wanted to make a statement?
I believe it was me, Mr. Mayor, City Manager.
Okay, City Manager, sorry. Go ahead.
No, not a problem. This is a challenging way to do this, but thank you. I just want to add on to the issue of the enforcement piece. Until we see the county's final order, which we anticipate tomorrow, we're speculating on just exactly what those details are going to be. But I just want to, further respond to the question. Based on everything that we've heard, the low risk are going to have a lower number of criteria or mitigation measures to comply with. When we start talking about the medium risk uses, then we anticipate that there's going to be more mitigation measures to comply with. And so in terms of a universal approach to this, there won't be. So different uses, level risk uses are going to have different criteria. But we will continue, as our fire chief mentioned, that if there is a concern about non-compliance, then our code enforcement would be the proper vehicle to contact. If there is a question about whether or not a business use is allowable, then that warm line is the proper number to contact for direction on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments, or we'll continue with public comments? Do we have any more public comments?
Hi, Mayor. I have Angela Higdon on the line. I'll go ahead and open her mic.
Hi, thank you. I have a question, and I don't know if we're in a spot where you could really answer this, but I'm trying to figure out how realistic is it to think that we can hold events such as a high school graduation or a prom or grad night if we were to push something like that back into mid to late July? Is there any indication that that might be possible?
Is that your complete statement, ma'am?
It is, yes.
Okay. Chief, would you like to answer that question for her?
I'm afraid I don't have the answer to that because it would be complete speculation, and I don't want to speak for the county health officer. And the only answer I can give to that is he did not give any timeline as far as, obviously those kind of events, those large events would fall under the high risk, and Dr. Matthias did not give any timeline for that at his presentation yesterday.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more public comment?
No, sir.
Great. So I believe now we can talk about the letter. And I'll start it off because this is something that was important to me, and I believe it was important to some of the other council members when we had the last meeting. My suggestion tonight would be we take a vote as a council, give the parameters of what the letter should be. And my suggestion would be, let's write to the county, thank them, obviously, for the steps that they're starting to take, but continue to put pressure on the county to continue to move forward. The governor, as I had heard, gave each individual county the ability to basically go as far as they feel is adequate for their region, their county. And, obviously our county is different than all the other counties. Our numbers are low. Our beds in the hospital are empty. We have a testing center now in Vacaville. I would like to, obviously thank the county for the direction they're heading, but honestly, continue to put pressure on them to open our businesses. So with that, I would, entertain anyone else's comments, but keep it in that parameter. I'll send it on behalf of the city council and get it over to the county, first thing tomorrow morning, so that they can see where the city of Vacaville lies. With that, I'll open it up to any other city council person.
I have a couple thoughts and additions to that. This is Nolan Sullivan.
Okay, Councilmember Sullivan, go ahead.
So I've been on some of the calls with the governor and public health this week as well. And so I understand exactly what you're saying, and I'm very supportive of the concept of the letter. I do think some of the detail that maybe we're missing that I'm working off of based on my job in Yolo County is that even though the governor did say counties go as far as you want, there were a couple key variables that counties had to meet to do that. And so one of them was contact tracing, one of them was testing capability, one of them, I believe, had to do with ICU beds. So, Chief, I'm not sure if you know, I think there were 5 or 6 key elements that counties had to meet before they moved further. So I'm supportive of exactly what you're saying, but I also want to be clear that the governor's offer for counties to move forward did have a couple caveats, and I think we probably need to be clear on those too. So I'm hoping maybe Chief can clarify on those. And then secondly, any letter that we do, Mr. Mayor, I would hope that we strongly call out the need for a carve out for senior protections and a plan for our area's vulnerable seniors. And then the other piece of that, so one of the things I mentioned earlier is contact tracing. I truly believe contact tracing is the most effective tool that we can implement to safely open our businesses. And that can be done really quickly. In Yolo County, the cities are partnering with the county and the state and a couple other groups to stand up a huge workforce of contact tracers. I would hate for us to reopen the economy, have a massive outbreak, and then have all of the sacrifice and everything be for nothing. So contact tracing is the way you prevent that. So I would speculate, or I would ask that we add a section about contact tracing and our willingness to participate or maybe fund efforts to contact trace, and a section about protecting our seniors and the need for a plan to address local seniors and vulnerable populations in the letter. I am generally very supportive of the direction that you're recommending. I just would like to make those additions and then also get some clarification from the chief on those variables the governor did put out there.
Any other council member want to make comment?
Yes, this is Councilmember Harris. I want to say that, yeah, thank you. I want to say that, really overall, I think that Dr. Matias and the county have done a really good job of allowing some loosening of the orders as they could under the state's guidelines. I think that Dr. Matias is very reasonable, and I think he already does have some plans in place to make sure that anyone that doesn't feel comfortable going out and participating in commerce, they don't have to. Anyone that, I think that the skilled nursing homes and the assisted living facilities are probably where, the majority of the hotspots will be. So I agree with Councilmember Sullivan that we do need to make sure that, there's guidelines and precautions in place for them. But again, I think that is one of the areas that, Dr. Matias has been, very cognizant of. That's
Any
it.
other council comments? Okay, with that, I'm going to ask the city attorney, should I open this for council comments? I would assume, because we're going to vote on it, not council comments, public comments.
Yes, you should.
I'll open this for public comments. Is anybody on the line for public comment?
No public comment noted.
This is Vice Mayor Beatty. I'm going to make a motion here, although I have some concerns with some of the additional information that was provided. I'd just like to make a motion that we send a general letter supporting the county, thanking them for the direction they provided, and then asking them to continue to open up businesses and provide us the freedom to do what we need to do. The caveat here is I think the more restrictions you put in the letter, like contact tracing and certain demographics that we're concerned about, the more specific you make that letter, the more complicated it makes the entire process, which is already unprecedented in our country. So it seems like the best letter would be a general letter. Thank you, and continue to release us to do what we see would be in the best interest of our citizens. So I'd like to make a motion that we send the letter with just those 2 paragraphs. Thank you, and continue to release businesses without the additional things that were mentioned earlier.
That's a motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Harris. We will take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mashburn?
Aye.
Sullivan?
I'm going to say no. I'm very supportive of opening our businesses, but I think this is a toothless letter that omits some major things we need to be mindful of. So no.
Vice Mayor Beatty?
Aye.
Mayor Rolette?
Aye. Thank you very much. It passes 4-1. We will move to item 4B. Mr. City Manager, do you want to take it or do you want me to pass it off to Kerry Walker?
I will introduce it and then turn it over to Ms. Walker. Thank you, sir. So, Mayor, members of the City Council, this next item is an update on the current city events of Park and Rec programs and a planned COVID-19 program recovery plan. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Kerry Walker from our Park and Rec Department.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Tonight, the Parks and Recreation staff will be presenting on what our department recovery plan might look like. This is all very fluid and changing rapidly. What we do know is that things are going to look quite different in the way we operate for the foreseeable future. Staff have done a great job of staying connected and gathering information related to reopening. They have participated in webinars, chats, listservs, and have stayed in almost daily contact with the National Recreation and Park Association and the California Park and Recreation Society and their peers from across the state. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Recreation Manager Melody Ocampo, and Recreation Manager Reggie Hubbard is also on the line.
Hi, this is Melody Ocampo. Thank you, Director Walker. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. As Carrie mentioned, I'll be presenting the Parks and Recreation reopening plans. As she mentioned, the COVID-19 situation is very fluid and things are changing on a daily basis. As has been mentioned multiple times this evening, there is an expected updated order from the county to be released as soon as tomorrow, and it's likely to address public pool programs as well as summer camps. So we anticipate utilizing that information in order to provide future guidance. Next slide. So just getting into our general strategy, we're looking at smaller maximum capacity registration numbers, increasing our sanitation standards, requiring employees to wear face coverings, temperature checks upon entry for staff, participants, and facility users for those who are going to be in the facility for extended periods of time, maintaining participant spacing guidelines of 6 feet, and routine hand washing per the CDC guidelines, and then eliminating most drop-in options for our programming. Next. Specific to youth programs, will require children to be in stable groups of 10 or fewer. They will not change from one group to another. Where there's more than one group of children at one facility, we would separate those groups into separate rooms. And then the staff and children will be assigned solely to one group for the duration of the program. Next. Some of our challenges and concerns include establishing that safe environment in the event that staff are required to perform CPR or first aid, ensuring that we have ongoing adequate supply of sanitation supplies, and then the fiscal impact. We anticipate an increase in expenses, for sanitation supplies and staff hours, and that along with the fact that we'll be reducing our maximum capacity numbers will definitely have an impact on our budget. Next slide, please. Next steps, we are working to prioritize our programming and facility allocations. Because of those capacities, we will not be able to offer as much as we normally would. Of course, that will be balanced with the fact that we can't offer our full load of park and recreation programming that you typically see. So we're also working on developing official sanitation protocols, training staff on those protocols and safety measures, and then setting up our facilities with social distancing measures and sanitary measures, things that you're used to seeing in retail environments these days when you go out, and having markers on the floor, things of that nature. We're working on establishing a timeline. Again, that's all very fluid, so we don't have any dates for you at this time. But once we do establish that, we will then move forward with public notification so that we can get people enrolled in programs and so they know what to expect moving forward with our program. Next slide. Stage one, so you guys have heard a lot already about the State of California's pandemic roadmap and the categorized programs. We've categorized the programs into that resiliency roadmap and those stages. This is what we're currently offering. It's virtual recreation center. If you're not already, please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Vacaville Rec to check out our virtual classes, including activity lessons and read alouds. You all are well aware of the Senior Helpline. This is a wonderful program that came when COVID-19 started hitting our community, and it provides the delivery of hot meals and essential goods to our seniors. There are wellness calls, and we have received very generous community donations to increase our efforts and provide those services to our seniors. We also have a children's camp for essential city staff and virtual concerts and theater performances that are being put out by the Vacaville Performing Arts Center. Next slide, please. In stage two, we're hoping to reopen some programs as we see more public spaces open, including summer programs. Again, we are going to be looking for guidance from that county report or order that's going to be coming out so that we can ease into offering our early childhood enrichment programs, gymnastics, youth services, teen programs, cultural art classes, limited aquatics, and then Duke, some requiring pre-registration for a lot of our traditionally drop-in programs. And then, of course, we would reopen our registration and front counters. Next slide, please. As we move into stage three, those higher risk environments, opening with adaptation and size limits. Active aging, we're hoping to get some of our seniors, as it is safe to do so, back in the McBride Senior Center, bringing back our full gamut of sports programming, therapeutic recreation programs, and then facility and park rentals with small groups and maintain social distancing. At VPAT, for Performing Arts Centers, bringing audiences back into the facility eventually, just kind of slowly increasing the sizes as we're allowed to do so and can do so safely. So, and then additional programs in the categories that were listed on the previous slide, we would bring in more program offerings under those categories. Next slide. Stage four, when we have the highest risk activities, such as concerts and live audience sports. That's your special events, creek walk events. As you'll see from my next slide, I'll get into that a little bit more, but stage four, it's really going to be business as usual. So the park and rec activities that you know and love will be back. Next slide. So special events, those creek walk concerts, as of right now, they were scheduled for June 12th through August 7th. Unfortunately, we have made the decision to cancel those through July. And that does include the 4th of July family celebration and fireworks show, unfortunately. We've also made the tough decision to cancel our Thursday on the Green monthly events. We've canceled the June one. That is an event that we started last year. It was previously called Third Thursdays, and we work with the Downtown Business Improvement District on that. So that's something they're canceling their events once a month, and we have just collaboratively decided to go ahead and just cancel June. Next slide. Questions?
Any council member have any questions? Seeing none,
Councilmember Harris.
Oh, Councilmember Harris, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, you guys have done a fantastic job in the midst of some real challenging times, and really appreciate all the virtual opportunities you've provided to our citizens, our residents. And I know it's hard on you guys, but really you've done a great job, and I really appreciate the planning that you've laid out, and hopefully we'll be able to unroll it sooner than later, but really do appreciate you.
It's definitely a team effort.
Any other council comments? With that, I'll open it up public comment. Do we have any public comments for item 4B?
I have Mary Vasquez on the line. I'll go ahead and open her mic.
Okay. Hello, Mary.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Hi, I'd just like to thank Carrie and the Parks and Rec staff for putting together this information and a plan for reopening of their programs. I would like to ask, though, however, what the discussions have been about some of the youth sports and what is going on with the youth leagues in terms of softball, baseball, soccer, basketball. I mean, I know, and even I'm sure some travel organizations, not just rec, but some travel organizations have some questions about where they stand in terms of facility rentals as well.
Carrie Walker, can you answer that?
Sure. I think at this time, it's speculative as to when we're going to be able to open fields back up and be able to allow and offer, any of the youth sports programs. Part of that, and again, as Recreation Manager Ocampo mentioned, there's an amended order that we're anticipating tomorrow, and this may be something that is addressed and released tomorrow. So again, it's really fluid. It's changing for us on an almost daily basis. But, I too am reluctant to speculate as to when we'll be able to move forward and allow those activities to take place.
I have a related question from council.
You need to jump in before we go to any other public comments, or do you want to jump in now?
No, I can wait for other public comments. I just want to let you know, sorry.
Okay, I appreciate it. Are there any other public comments?
I have Christina Dalbenek on the line. I'll go ahead and open her mic.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you so much for taking my comment. I am a single working mom here in Vacaville, and I've been severely impacted by childcare and trying to work full time and educate my children. And I'm so grateful for these rec services and summer camps. I was wondering if there could be any comment made about whether or not the camps will be starting on the June 8th as planned, or if there's any milestones in which to help us parents plan and prepare for summer camp. We signed up in February, and we have a lot of money tied up in having prepaid childcare for summer that we were hoping we were able to utilize to work and continue to support the necessary businesses in the state.
We are hopeful.
Go ahead.
We are hopeful that we'll be able to offer summer camps this summer. There will be some pretty extreme modifications with all of the guidelines that will be required to follow. Again, that is something that we are hopeful is going to be addressed in the amended order that will come out tomorrow. So again, I don't want to speculate as to a firm date when we would be able to start our camp programs, but we are hopeful that we will be able to offer those.
Great. I'm so happy
do we have
to hear
any
that.
more?
Thank you.
Do we have any more? Thank you. Do we have any more public comment?
I have Erica Lee. I will go ahead and open her mic.
Thank you. Welcome, Erica.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I had a question for Carrie with regards to the youth sports. I know I had reached out, but I wanted to check and see as far as is the field allocations going to be something that's going to be brought to the commission or city council as far as allowing us to proceed with the season if as long as the shelter in place has been lifted and we've presented a plan to the city as far as the social distancing and requirements from the city. I mean, is that something? I mean, I know the city has their summer leagues and such that that they typically try to run. But I wanted to see as a youth sport, if they were going to allow field allocations to proceed in the fall, superseding the Vacaville sports.
Is that the rest of your public comment, ma'am?
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Carrie, would you like to answer that?
Sure. Again, as stated earlier, I can't predict how soon youth sports will be allowed to resume. We will look to do as best we can, what is mutually beneficial for the leagues as well as the city programs, and work hopefully as best we can to come to as much of a win-win solution as we possibly can.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. And I would like to address the Parks and Recreation and Carrie Walker and her staff. Back when the first announcement came from Governor Newsom, immediately, everyone went to social media and was putting things onto social media. I picked up on one item about making sure that our seniors got the resources they need. I called our old former city manager, said we need to put something together. Our staff immediately jumped on that. Parks and Recreation took that over. They created the senior helpline. It is amazing. We got another donation from Rotary Club today of $2,000. We are continuing to get that money to our restaurants to purchase food, to get it to our seniors. I know that they've done a lot of work making sure that we're vetting the volunteers before they go out and interact with the seniors. A lot of time and energy went into this. I think it's paid off dividends, and it wasn't easy. We went from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a short amount of time, and I just want to thank Carrie Walker for getting this together, and our staff and her staff. It's amazing to see it. It's helped our restaurants, our local restaurants. It's definitely helped our seniors. We have over 25 volunteers right now, I believe, on helping us out 3 days a week, feed everyone. Elizabeth has done a great job, and I just want to thank everyone that's put this together. I know that other cities have been envious, and I just appreciate it. So thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say staff have been phenomenal. You're right. They went from 0 to 100, overnight, and they've gotten it to where it's working as a well-oiled machine, and it's been phenomenal with what they've done. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a non-action item, so we'll move to item 4C.
I think Sullivan had.
Thank you. I had one quick question. So the couple of the comments tonight actually just kind of brought up a larger question for me that involved Carrie and kids kind of sort of. So first we had the question about graduation, and then we had the question about grad night, and then we had the question about summer camps, and then the question about youth leagues. I mean, I know the schools are gearing up and doing different things right now, and I know they're kind of in different positions. I know some of the nonprofits that serve kids are doing different things. I know some of the childcare facilities are doing different things. Vacaville is a town based on traditions, and you only get one graduation, you only get one sixth grade camp, one summer camp. I do wonder maybe is there a group that's actually having these discussions about ways? I mean, I understand like a creek walk concert is one thing, but a kid's graduation is kind of another. Are there groups in the county, Carrie, that are talking maybe amongst your staff and to the school districts and maybe other youth-focused organizations on possible contingencies to do some of these things safely, especially some of the really high-profile things like graduations or summer camps or et cetera, et cetera? A lot of our families have already burned through their EFMLA, and they were really counting on some of these summer practices. Are there larger discussions being held somewhere about this, or are we just kind of assuming they are? I wanted to know if someone is in fact addressing it.
I can defer to Recreation Manager Hubbard or Ocampo. What I can say is that I'm not aware that we're participating in anything locally, as a department, planning for the future. And one of the issues that came up previously with regard to field allocations, we certainly intend to contact the school district and see if there might be a possibility that we can utilize some school district fields throughout, at the very least this summer. But in terms of those other types of gatherings, I'm not aware of anything happening locally. But again, I will defer to our recreation managers. They may be aware of something that I'm not.
This is Recreation Manager Reggie Hubbard. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Reggie. Go ahead.
Thank you. But no, I'm in the same line with Director Walker. There's a lot of information going up and down the state, but for the larger events and gatherings, it's almost all phase 4. I mean, you can't really. It's tough to have a large gathering and keep 6 feet apart with a graduation or an event like that. But some of our smaller summer camps and things like that, it's in a more controlled environment and you can do that. But as far as locally having those discussions, not really, but more on the state level, all the Parks and Rec departments, we are having those discussions. But the graduation, that's a whole different animal. So I don't know if Mel has any other feedback on that one.
No, I haven't heard before tonight any requests for, having a graduation ceremony, at least officially kind of come through our offices. But I would think that, we kind of defer to the school district to, they traditionally host those. As Reggie mentioned, there are a lot of conversations happening up and down the state and across the country about park and rec departments, and that's not really been a topic that's come up. And I think it's because of that, because it's, how could those still be hosted as these stages, and as we're able to congregate a little bit more and more, those timelines will kind of be set, and I think that would be something that I would maybe defer to the district on.
So that's great. I appreciate the feedback. I guess my question, last week restaurants were not even a remote possibility, we thought, and then this week it looks like they probably are. So I'm wondering if maybe staff could just engage some contacts at the school district and the public health office and just approach the conversation. We may get a hard no, but coming from where I'm at in Yolo County too, being involved in lots of these discussions, it kind of dawned on me today that this is not a topic that's been brought up. So maybe there could be a small coalition of youth-focusing government agencies like Parks and Rec and the school districts and some of the charter schools and some of the nonprofits, just to have like a Zoom call to talk about it, because you never know when you ask for something to public health, they've been pretty responsive. So I'm wondering if maybe we just haven't had the conversation, that there might be a slim possibility, and if we could try, that'd be great. If not, I understand, but I just think maybe it'd be worth a discussion with a couple folks.
Okay, with that, is there any other council members that would like to make a statement? Seeing no other council members that want to make a statement, we'll move to item 4C. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. This last item tonight is authorization, a request to have the mayor sign a letter to the Governor Newsom requesting that the state establish a $7 billion city revenue stabilization fund to address the financial impacts of COVID-19. As you're all aware, since the beginning of this crisis, the city of Vacaville, as well as all other cities in the state and country for that matter, have taken measures to step up and protect and serve our communities. Those actions include a variety of different things, shutting down City Hall to protect our employees, to protect the public, making investments in protective equipment and personal protective gear, and a variety of other measures to take into account how do we protect folks. But these actions come at a cost. And then when you factor in the projected revenue lost with regards to sales tax, TOT tax, and all those other types of things, we have been, we're cautious and concerned about the potential financial impacts to our local economy. The League of California Cities has been working with the state cities and on evaluating just exactly the extent of those projected financial shortfalls. And they project that over the next 2 fiscal years, a $7 billion general revenue shortfall. And so this letter is recommended to all cities to send to the governor, who has at one point during his orders suggested that we need to help local cities because that's where the action is really happening. And yet we have not received any of the financial credit in that regard. So this letter that we included as attachment 1 is a letter to the governor on behalf of the city council, making a request that the governor establish that financial fund, stabilization fund for local cities. So that is included in attachment 1. And again, we're recommending that you authorize the mayor to sign that on your behalf so that we can send that out to the governor as soon as possible.
Are there any council members that would like to make a statement or have any questions? I will open it up to public comment. Is there anyone under public comment on the phone?
No public comment.
Thank you. I'll entertain motion.
I'll move approval.
Mashburn moved approval. Beatty seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mashburn?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beatty?
Aye.
Mayor Rolette?
Aye. Thank you. We'll move to item 5, reports of city manager. Mr. City Manager.
None at this time. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move to item 6, reports of city council. I'll start off because of the new idea that we're going to agendize things under reports of city council. I would like to ask city council to agendize for our next meeting, helping our businesses out, relieving them of business fees, any fee that they were going to have to pay right now while either not working or they're just getting back to work. Anything that we can do to help our small businesses in Vacaville, just give them a little relief right now. Any way we can do it. If someone can come back with a report and say, these are the things that we can alleviate and take off their plate for right now, and these are the steps we need to do. I would like a report back to say, this is how we're going to help our small businesses in Vacaville. So I'll make that in a form of a motion. If I can get a second.
Second.
Beatty seconds, Vice Mayor Beatty seconds. Is there any question?
So you're making Diana's motion?
No.
Okie dokie.
Take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Sorry, I was on mute. For clarification, you're going to ask the staff, you're going to ask the city manager to come back with how we can reduce fees for businesses.
Yes.
All right. Sure, I'll second that. I mean, I'll say yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mashburn?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Beatty?
Aye.
Mayor Rolette?
Aye.
Okay. May I speak?
Councilmember Harris.
All right. As I mentioned under item 4A, our businesses have been suffering for 2 months, and many of the businesses will take a significant time to recover. And I would like to agendize economic recovery for our small business sector for the next meeting. And this could be any number of ways in which the city could assist small businesses. up to, I'll leave it up to staff. But yes, I would like to do that. I'd like a second on that.
I'll second it. This is Roulette. We have a motion from Harris, second from Roulette. Can we have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Mashburn,
You're muted.
Sorry. Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Beatty,
Just a point of clarification, is that different than what we just talked about? It's a different process?
Yeah, it would be different because it's not just looking at fees.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that'd be great. Aye.
Thank you.
Mayor Roulette.
Aye. Are there any other council members that would like to make a comment on the report to City Council? Okay, that being said, we'll move to item 7, adjournment. And good night, Vacaville.